Impeccable is the best design skill for both Codex and Claude Code, and calling it a skill actually doesn't do it a justice because it's so much more. Impeccable maintains a library of AI slop and then makes sure that your website doesn't look like this. We can see some of the AI patterns here that Impeccable helps you avoid. But I think what was even more helpful for me is that Impeccable turns design language that I have hard time actually expressing into commands that I can run. Like make it quieter, make it go in overdrive. Those are not things, this is not how I communicate, but this is how a designer thinks and communicates. And I think this is really helpful and really innovative because AI frontends are trained on maybe 20, 30 templates, and they're actually actively trying to regress to this mean, to those 20, 30 templates, unless you put an effort to actively steer them in another direction. And this is what Impeccable does, and it does it in a loop until the goal is completed, and it gives you this nice vocabulary here. Make it bolder, make it quieter, make it in overdrive. And because it's so powerful, it gets a bit complicated. So to break it down really simply, there are two use cases for Impeccable. You could either use it in a new project or in an existing project. In a new project, you could just run /impeccable in it, and then it would generate two files, product.md, which describes your product, what your product is about, your users, and then design.md, which describes the user experience, the user interface. And we're going to test Impeccable in both Claude and in Codex to see what are the differences and if it does well in both coding harnesses. And we're also going to take a look at existing projects and run commands like critique, make it bolder, polish, distill, quieter, to understand if the tool is doing a good job at those. You could write impeccable /polish, and then Impeccable would detect that this border is something that AI usually generates, that the font is something that comes from AI, and that the beige color as well is typical of current generation AI. And when you apply /polish, you would get something like this, which is much more clean and modern looking. If we click here on slop on the top bar, we'll land on this page, which would show us all the patterns that AI tends to generate these days. In 2022, we know that it was the time of purple gradients and low contrast text. And then in 2026, we have this interfont and with the cream beige background, and then we have the blinking cursor and the grid in the background. This is currently what AI generates in 2026. And Impeccable collects all those designs that are generated by AI and then writes skills that are both deterministic and non-deterministic to detect those patterns in your product and actively work against them in a loop until it fixes them. And it's not per se that those patterns are bad. That's why I don't want to name them slop. Actually, if we have seen this a couple of years ago, we'll think that this is absolutely gorgeous. But the problem is that when every website looks like this, the users see that and they see that you have put no effort into your product, and then it leads to low trust. That's why we want to work against patterns that are used by AI everywhere. We can use impeccable /layout to see how we'll change the layout of the website. We can see /colorize, how we add beautiful colors to our design that are subtle and not too screaming in your face. Of course, we have animate as well. We have a lot of commands that you can explore on your own. I'm not going to go through all of them, but that's why I'm saying this is not just a skill, this is a whole system. For the tests I have been doing, I'm going to start first with the test in Codex. I've just asked Codex to design a beautiful landing page for a modern fintech bank. And I've asked Codex to do not use any skills. And this is the Codex vanilla website that was created by Codex. This is without using any skills. And it's about a fintech bank. Right now we are doing this here. We are creating a new project and we're going to test it in Codex and Claude Code. But first I'd like to set a baseline. That's why I'm creating a vanilla, so we have things to compare against. And then we're going to run those commands on our existing projects and we'll see how they shape up. So this is the vanilla bank. Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised of how much GPT 5.6 has improved on design. We don't see the typical cards everywhere type of stuff. It looks good. It looks, dare I say, mildly unique. And then I have asked Codex with Impeccable in it, design a beautiful landing page for a modern fintech bank. And then I said the bank is targeted at young people, because based on the skill, I got a few questions from Codex that I needed to address. And then what is really interesting, this is what I got. There's several concepts that the skill has created for me. And Codex is asking me which direction I like most. So we continue with this direction. And honestly, I don't understand what this first card is because there is no visual anchoring here. And then there's this money concourse, which looks like an airport. I think this is a bit too corporate for me. And then this is the energy alternate. This is a bank that I want to create for young people. So I really like this. If you don't like any of the options, we could click reroll to see what new options are being generated. And we could also add some prompt here. So I'm going to click build this and see what Impeccable builds. And I see that Codex is working. Yes, you choose Money Playground. That's awesome. Then we can move to Claude Code now. And by the way, I'm using Opus 5 and this is the Claude Code design. This to me screams much more like AI because I've seen that so many times. The font, the colors, the background, the halo effect here that is following my cursor. It's a really beautiful website. I can really appreciate it, but I can tell also this is created by AI. And if I see this website in the wild, I'll be thinking, okay, they didn't put much effort into the design, no matter how beautiful it looks. And this is the vanilla Claude. This is the prompt that I gave. Again, same prompt. And then I also did the Impeccable version, which we can see here. And again, I have several options like with Codex. And this time we're going to try reroll to see what different options Claude is generating. So now Claude will generate different options for us. One of the reasons why Impeccable is so good compared to other options is that it actually runs in a loop. Once it does an iteration with changes, then it runs your landing page in the browser and then again checks against the rules that it has to eliminate any AI slop. Now, those are the new designs that we got from Claude Code. And to me, they look really unique. It's not something that I've seen from AI. I really like the balance of colors and materials that are being used here. And the third one just takes you back in time. But I'm curious why the first one doesn't have any visual anchoring. And maybe I could ask Claude Code, but I feel like going with build this and just finding out. And let's see. Choice recorded, and then Claude is going to continue working. Now both Codex and Claude Code are working next to each other. And as a reminder, those are the vanilla versions of Claude and of Codex. And compared to what we had in the previews of Impeccable, those now look much less impressive. While we are on it, I'd like to run Impeccable critique on the vanilla Codex and Claude Code websites and see what happens. So I'd go to Claude Vanilla and run Impeccable critique, and then copy this and paste it into Codex. Run here, run here. And what critique is doing is that it would start a design review for our front ends and tell us what to improve. Codex is saying that Impeccable critique is supposed to run 2 sub-agents. And then I say, sounds good. While Claude actually started the sub-agents, I believe, without asking for permission, which is fine. By the way, Opus 5 doesn't ask much for permissions. It just does stuff. And what I found is also for design specifically, the high effort is much better than the max effort. I find Opus 5 on high actually the best middle ground. And we can also see that Codex has generated 3 different versions of our style that we have chosen. And I'll just choose the first one. Now remember, in the vanilla Claude, we run Impeccable critique, and then it comes up with a set of questions that I need to answer in order to make the website better. In this case, I'll just go with the recommended options. And here's the critique that Impeccable returned for the vanilla Claude. The visual is excellent. The interactive layer is not built. So actually Impeccable likes the Claude design quite a lot, which I'm surprised by. We'll see how the end version would look like after the fixes. We also have the critique back on the vanilla Codex project. Overall impression, the page looks confident, art-directed, and unusually complete for a vanilla static build. And then it has proposed some changes. And I'm just going to say fix everything as you recommend. One note though, this may be the slowest front-end skill that I have ever used. It actually takes quite a while until everything is complete, probably because it runs in a loop. It verifies multiple times across many different rules until it thinks that everything is perfect. So it does take a while until your design is done. Our designs are done. This is the critique variant of the original Claude vanilla design. And to be honest, I don't see much of a difference. And unfortunately, I didn't put the first design in Git, so I can't remember it much. I remember the background color being a bit more different, but overall, not much has changed here. And feeling adventurous is not always the best choice. This is the design of the Impeccable skill with Claude. I remember the other 2 options that Impeccable gave us were so much better, but this one didn't have visual indicators, so I chose it, and it's quite disappointing, to be honest. It's really bad. Now, this is Codex Vanilla Original, and this is the critiqued version. I like the critiqued version much more. There are subtle changes in the font and in the spacing, and overall, it looks much more polished. So if you have a product already, some website application landing page, I suggest you run the critique on your current project and see what changes, because the changes here are subtle, but they're really nice. I really like them. And this is the Impeccable design from Codex. This is not a great website for a bank, I admit, and this was my choice. I think Codex with the skill has done great job, but I definitely picked the wrong creative direction for a bank. But we're not done yet because I'd like to explore Impeccable a bit further. We have seen how Impeccable works for a new project, and we have seen how the critique command in Impeccable works as well. It polished our websites, it made them a bit better. But I'd like to try out a few more commands. For example, Impeccable Bolder. I'd like to take the vanilla Claude design that we have and make it a bit bolder. And then I'd like to take this quiet bat design from Claude and make it quieter. And for Codex, I'd like to run one more polish pass on this design. It's the final pass. And for the Impeccable design in Codex, I'd like to run the distill command, which would strip the design to their essence. All right, all our designs are back. This is the critiqued vanilla Claude Code version, and this is the bolder version now. I don't know about you, I like the bolder version more. There's more color, it looks more alive, and overall less boring. Now for the disappointment of the video, this is the original, and this is the quieter variant. I like the quieter more, but the difference is not big. It's a very subtle difference. Then we have the vanilla Codex version. This is the original because I was able to restore the original on the Codex. This is the critique, which I liked more, which feels a bit more polished. There is better hierarchy, better spacing, better font. And this is the polished version. As we see, the difference is that there is this animation in the hero section, which I really liked. So critiqued and polished vanilla Codex, I actually really like. And then there's the distilled version. You see that there's just one page here and it really comes to the point, but it also looks very empty. There's those animated sliders here, and I'll let you judge which one you like more. I don't like either of them, to be honest, but this is not to say that Impeccable is useless. Again, I think I chose the wrong direction, but overall, I was really happy with the critique skill, the polish skill, and what I have tested off camera for building those initial versions of the websites. If you don't go too crazy with the direction like I did here, the results are very, very nice. This was Impeccable. Unfortunately, I couldn't showcase its true strength as much as I wanted. My experience off camera has been way better than what we have seen. So really, I encourage you to try it out yourself and let me know what you think. I do think that there is some art in creating front ends with AI, and it's definitely not as easy as one-shotting the design. It is still difficult. You still need to articulate your thoughts properly using the design terminology. But there are definitely skills and tools that make that much easier. And I think Impeccable is one of them. I actually think that's the best one. Give it a try. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Vielen Dank für das Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Благодаря и следващия път.